Before the video does begin, right now is a great time to pick up some gamer subs. They're currently releasing a bunch of new waifu cups, new flavors, and the great part is if you use my code CODESPADA, you can get yourself free shipping for any orders over $39. So if you want to support the channel and also treat yourself to some gamer subs, well, feel free to use CODESPADA. Alright lads, so we are quickly approaching the end of the month, and with that we do have the next set of Limit Breaker quests, in this case giving us the rules starting from the 1st of May, and the quick TLDW is that slot number 1 wants us to bring a Power Quincy Killer, slot number 2 wants us to bring a Speed Holo Killer, and then slot number 3, the flexible slot. As always, you can bring any character you want to, but ideally you do want to bring a Heart Soripa Killer. In this case, matching all the rules and also having Killer an attribute advantage against every enemy, these are the characters Caleb want you to bring. Now, usually Limit Breaker does give us a hint at what characters are set to return, and the Yuha Ichigo Orihime banner has yet to return since its initial release at the end of December. It's expected and almost guaranteed, I would like to say, that Ichigo, Yuha, and Orihime are set to return within the next 2 weeks while this Limit Breaker quest is active, and slot number 3 being designed for Ichigo pretty much solidifies that. However, does this also mean that Sangdu is also returning so soon? I'm not really too sure. Usually when we do see rules in particular be strictly designed for certain characters, it does mean they are returning, but then again, a Speed Holo Killer, it is quite generic. It could just be for any Speed Holo Killer. But of course, in regards to Speed Holo Killer, Sangdu is the best. So it probably doesn't mean Sangdu is returning, but I would say it's pretty much confirmed now. It already was, to be fair, that Ichigo, Yuha, and also Orihime are set to return within the next 2 weeks while this Limit Breaker quest is actually active. Now, of course, one special thing in regards to this Limit Breaker quest, which we will see going forward to every future Limit Breaker quest, is that there are now more rewards. In this case, if you go up to stage 22 now, you can get your hands on more Transcendence points. Originally, to get all the rewards, you only had to go to stage 19. Now, if you go further than that, stage 22, you're getting more rewards, more Transcendence points, which I will always welcome. Having a close look at the actual rules, though, again, slot number 1 wants to bring a Power Quincy Killer, but more specifically, we want to bring a power character that is a ranged character, and preferably if they have Quincy Killer, that'll be even better. There will be weakening pulls, so you do have to be a tad bit careful what character you do bring. But when it comes to slot number 2, again, in this case, we want to bring a Speed Holo character. By being a speed character, they are getting that 2x damage output, and they also preferably do want to have Killer here. So this is going to be quite easy. Doesn't matter if they're ranged, it doesn't matter if they're a speed character, as long as they are a Speed Holo Killer, they're going to get all the bonuses here. So quite the easy slot to fulfill, in my opinion. And then slot 3, as already mentioned, is the flexible slot. As always, you can bring the usual characters, Kyuubi, Yuha, for example. But in this case, bringing someone like Ichigo, for example, since he does have killer advantage here, he's also going to be really good. But essentially, just bring any hard character for slot 3, and you honestly should be absolutely fine, especially if they have Soripa Killer. With that said, though, now let's have a closer look at our album. Let's look at the other options we can bring, other than, of course, the most ideal characters. For slot number 1, we want to bring a power character that is ranged with a Quincy Killer. So let's look at the requirements here. Other than, of course, Okura, he is going to be your best character in slot number 1. Really high damage output, frenzy +2. When he inflicts a stat ailment, which he does have an increased chance to inflict stat ailments, he will get an 80% SP boost. He can apply weakening. The more kills he gets, the more damage output he gets. And after a certain amount of kills, I believe it is 40, he will then offer a 20% universal strong attack damage buff to your entire team. A great thing with Okura is the fact that he can apply weakening with the very powerful charge strong attack 3 that true Shikai Ichigo also has, and it's just going to allow him to do a ridiculous amount of damage, right? Easily the go-to character. Unfortunately, if you're trying to match all the requirements here, being a ranged power Quincy Killer, these are your other best options, and they're not that good. I wouldn't recommend bringing him. That's fine though, because what you can do instead is just focus on bringing a power character with Quincy Killer. So let's just highlight a mini character. In this case, 1000 Year Blood with Yamamoto is going to be a really good character in slot number 1. I'm not going to say everyone has this character max transcended, but he was meta for a very long time in Guild Quest. A lot of people I know sought after this character to get him max transcended, and now that he is slowly approaching 2 years old, you might have him duped out. But even at special move level 1, Yama is honestly going to be a very good character in this slot, especially in this case because he is getting that 2x power damage output, and he is also getting the 5x killer effects. that's honestly good enough to get you quite far, especially get you all the rewards upwards to stage 22. You of course could try out Hallibell. I will try her out myself. I do like this character, but in my opinion, Hallibell's damage output isn't really the highest. I have used it in the past for Limit Breaker and it wasn't really the greatest. In the case you don't have a power Quincy killer, the next best thing you can do is again bring a power character that is now just simply ranged. So you don't really care about their killer effect, you just care about the fact that they are a ranged power character. And in that case, the options start to open up a tad bit more. Good or reliable. 8th anniversary Ichigo is going to be really good here. Getting a 4 times damage output, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. He has Poise Break, Tracking Vortex, immune to every stat element, easily going to stay at full stamina, and just going to constantly trap all the enemies thanks to the fact that he does have Poise Break. Overall, a very solid character, making the need to pull for Aaroniero just for Limit Breaker purposes, not that needed, right? Of course, if you get him, you're going to get a much higher score, but there's also some, luckily for us, good alternatives, right? And you know, you could also, if you really wanted to, bring someone like Rukia, for example. Now, again, Rukia is a bit iffy. She does, of course, give you the guaranteed recharge in between stages, and that definitely makes up for it. She also has the potential to heal her teammates, which is going to be really good. But remember, because your damage output here is 4 times effect for being a ranged power character, her SA2 is not getting that 2 times range damage effect, given that it is a melee attack. Is it that big of a deal? Probably not. The fact that she does recover all your strong attacks in between stages probably makes up for it, but it is something to keep in mind when using this character. Now, let's say, for example, you have no other good power character. Well, then you can start to experiment with different attributes, because remember, you don't have to bring a power character. It's preferred, but you don't need to. What you can then do instead is bring a ranged character that has Quincy Killer, and then we can look at some potential other options. Having said that, it's not like there's anyone really good here, really exceptional, that you would want to bring over just a ranged power character like 8th Anniversary Ichigo or someone like 1000 Year Blood Yamamoto. In my opinion, though, this one shouldn't be too bad. You could also just bring a power character, have them be melee. Again, not really that many good characters out there. Worst case scenario, maybe bring someone like this Nelliel to try and get you through it, but I wouldn't recommend it. In general, though, your already main go-to power characters are probably going to be the ones you want to bring here. Yamamoto, 8th Anniversary Ichigo, and also Rukia. They're going to be good in slot number 1, but ideally, if you want to go as far as you possibly can, Cyberpunk Aaroniero is going to be best in slot for number 1. For slot number 2, we want to bring a speed character. Again, their range type does not matter, and we want them to have a holo killer. So in this case, quite a few options. Of course, the most ideal character is going to be Sangdu. He was designed for this game mode after all, and Sangdu as a character has a ridiculously high damage output, right? Frenzy +2, a 120% SP boost. But then most importantly, he does have the gauge, which can reduce his strong attack cooldown. It can give him extra flash steps, and most importantly, give him Frenzy +3 overall. Good strong attacks, good damage output, reduces his recharge, he can inflict status more often, does more damage to frozen enemies. Very, very good character for slot number 2. If you have him, of course you're going to bring him, right? He's your go-to. But assuming you don't have him, well, these are going to be your other good options, because I, for example, do not have him. Now, just like when Sangdu was best in slot for slot number 1, when he was the new Limit Breaker character, we could also, as always, bring someone like Senjumaru. In her case, she's obviously really good. Good damage output despite it being a farming character, but she's immune to every stat element. She has Frenzy +2, and then she also does do 100% more damage to enemies that aren't inflicted with a status element. She won't have any crazy spikes in terms of damage output when, like, let's say an enemy gets inflicted with a status element, but she is going to have very consistent damage output, and it is good enough, definitely, to bring it in this quest. I brought her last time when I didn't have access to Sangdu when he was best in slot, and just like now, for example, I don't have Sangdu, still don't, but I do have Senjumaru, so I definitely will be putting it in slot number 2. Other than that, another great and solid character, since he does match all the rules, is going to be renewed Aaroniero. While his damage output isn't as crazy compared to Sangdu, it's still good enough, right? He's immune to every stat element. If for some reason you can squeeze in an extra Aranka in your team, he gets more damage output. His soul is going to hit very hard, right? So if you do decide to use your soul bomb on his stage in particular, since he has an SP boost, more damage to weakened enemies, and bombardment, good chance you are going to clear his particular stage, his more difficult stages, a lot faster. He has long stride, so he's naturally a fast character, and his damage output is good enough to clear at least upwards to stage 22. You can probably even get further than that, especially if you have him duped out. He is a premium character after all. But overall, very solid character to bring up for slot number 2. If you are someone that doesn't have access to Senjumaru, nor do you have access to Sangdu. Now, other than that, you could bring Orihime, you could bring Azashiro. Not really going to be the greatest characters, but would be decent substitutes. While this character won't be as good as Aizen, you know, last month, for example, slot number 1 was designed for someone like Rangiku, and everyone, myself included, just brought Aizen, right? And Aizen as a character was actually better than Rangiku. Nat characters are actually viable in this game mode, especially someone like this Jushiro who has a boost and barrier SA2. Good enough damage output. I mean, again, it's not as good as Aizen. Aizen is in a completely different league when compared to this Jushiro, but it's something you can do if you need that extra option, right? Worst case scenario, if you don't have a good speed holo killer, well then just bring a good speed character. There's good speed characters out there. I wish I could say Aaroniero, but you probably wouldn't want to bring him for a limit breaker, right? In this case, though, you could just go with characters like Yachiru. She doesn't get the killer effect here, but that's fine. It's Yachiru. Friendly +2, 80% SP boost, and Rampage. She's a great character, limit breaker. I rarely ever use her, to be fair. Not many times do rules match up for Yachiru. I feel like Caleb realized she's too powerful. But whenever you can bring a speed character, like in this case, Yachiru might actually be better than most characters, even those that do get the full extra damage buffs. Nelio wouldn't be a bad character here. I mean, she gets a gauge effect. She's immune to every stat element. She has a good damage output, boosting your team, protecting them too. Thanks to the fact that she does have gauge Rampage, she will fill the gauge a lot faster, allowing her to get access to that Flurry +2. So she shouldn't be a bad option. Likewise, you could bring Gin, you could bring Tenta Zangetsu, right? And you can even bring Macy, who allows herself to get recharge in between stages. Again, slot number 2, in my opinion, is quite the open slot because any speed character is considered good that released within the last year or two is easily good enough to get you to +25 stages if you have worked in them enough. Ideally, you would want to bring a speed holo killer, but there are plenty of other good speed characters to bring here. And then last but not least, slot number 3. Again, as always, whenever we can, Yuha, Bak, and also Kyogre are always great characters here. Yuha is usually the better character, given that he does have weakening, which allows him to do more damage, but also, most importantly, he does offer your team a second soul bomb when he does get, I believe, 50 kills, which is very easily done. Having an extra soul bomb definitely lets you clear a stage significantly faster and lets you push that extra bit further, especially on those more difficult stages when you are going against poised enemies. So in any given month, this month is no exception, Yuha is always going to be a good character, but likewise you can also bring Kyogre. He's basically the exact same as Yuha, maybe a tad bit more damage on his strong attacks, but this time around he will have attribute advantage, so Kyogre is always going to be a really good character in slot number 3, especially considering that both Yuha and Kyogre give themselves their recharge in between stages, so when they're next available, their strong attacks are ready to go. A character like Ichigo, whenever he has attribute and killer advantage, but more particular killer advantage, is always going to be a really good character, and right now is going to be no exception, right? Very high damage output thanks to his Frenzy +2, 80% SP boost when he does inflict a stat element, and he has an increased chance to do so, but then when you do inflict stat elements, you're basically doing 150% more damage, which is really, really good, especially in Limit Breaker, where, remember, status elements aren't nerfed. In Guild Quest and Epic Raid, status elements last a very short amount of time, more so weakening more often than not. In Limit Breaker, though, you get the full, 8+ seconds of weakening, and that's going to allow you to charge that SA3 and let off an absolute nuke. That is the Getuga Jujisho. I would say those are your 3 best characters to bring, but as always, you can bring other characters too. Noelle would be decent in slot number 3, likewise with 6 Anniversary Gaijin. As always, you don't even have to bring a hard character, right? If you want to bring a Super Killer, I mean, there's plenty of other good characters you can bring here. Ichibei, again, Yachiru in slot number 3. 8th Anniversary White. You could also just bring hard characters. In this case, Ruruka is a great character to bring. She's going to be in this upcoming end of month banner, and it looks like Caleb want you to bring her because they actually showcased her off in the gameplay where they showcased Okiura. For some reason, they didn't bring Ichigo despite him having killer and attribute advantage. And heck, truth be told, you could probably get away using someone like Yachiru, who we did showcase last month. She's a worse version of Kyogre, but that's not entirely a bad thing. But with the barriers, Frenzy +2, she's given herself the recharge in between stages. She's not the worst character to bring for slot number 3, I'll tell you that. With that said though, again, if it wasn't already obvious, this is going to be your best team that you can bring. There's definitely a lot of replacements this time around. I don't think this Limit Breaker quest is that restrictive. And again, I'm quite happy that they are not forcing us to bring power characters this time. The last couple of months, slot number 1 was always forcing us to bring a certain attribute. It's better this way just to have more damage if you bring a power character. Because if you want to bring a range Quincy Killer that isn't a power character, it's nice to have the option. Unfortunately, again, the lack of options here isn't the greatest. So maybe this isn't the best example, but it's nice to have options and not be forced just to bring one type of character. But yeah, slot number 1, any power character should work here, especially if they released in the last year. Slot number 2 is also quite flexible. Just bring a speed character. If they have Holo Killer, that's even better. And then slot 3, you're going to want to bring your usual candidates, right? Your Yuhas, your Kyogres, your Ichigos. Plenty of characters you can bring. Even though Ichigo does have attribute and killer, as always, it's probably better just to bring someone like Yuha. Kyogre, for example, just to get the guaranteed recharge in between stages. But I'd like to think, especially given that this time around there are more rewards, a lot of people shouldn't struggle that hard to get to stage 22. For those that are wondering, this is the team that I'm going to be using, assuming I don't pull Aaroniero in the upcoming end of month banner. This team I'm quite confident will get me to stage 25 plus. I'm quite fortunate enough too that I actually have some of these characters max strength standard, but even special move level 1, they honestly should be able to easily get me to stage 22, where I do get all the rewards. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Let me know what team you guys plan to use, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.